There is no such thing as a tall, male, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant artist. Thank you. There is also no such thing as a tall or short, male or female, Catholic, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, Jewish, Rastafarian, Shinto, subterranean, European, Asian, boreal, austral, Caribbean, Arctic, Australian, New Zealand, Canadian, Asian, if I didn't already mention that. Have I left anybody out? Artists belong to no one. And I say this personally. I guess this is affecting me now. But I say it personally. We belong to no one. To no latitude or longitude, to no bloodline, and to no borrowed system of beliefs. We are responsible in the world for bridging the distances that come between us because of race, because of nationalism, and because of religion. And it's a small community, but it's a vital community. And the reason I'm speaking today is because I feel that that community is threatened. And because it is threatened, we're all threatened. When I was 20, many of my peers, many of my friends intended to live a life in the arts. And there we were, standing together, sure that this was the life for all of us. And I never questioned that my friends maybe didn't have it in them to pursue a life in the arts. By the time I was 30, there were fewer in this line that seemed endless when I was very young. By the time I was 40, very few of the people I knew when I was 20 were still in pursuit of the arts. And there are reasons for that. The reasons they would give would be that they wanted a more sure life. They wanted a little bit more comfort, a little bit more convention. They were finding that this life wasn't the life they imagined, and that's understandable. It's a lot different on the inside of the arts than it is even when you're in the arts and you're looking at it and you're seeing success in the arts, and I mean marketplace success. What some of these friends of mine and what some of these peers of mine wanted was not a life in the arts. What they wanted was success in the arts. They wanted the rewards of an artistic life. The artistic life is only going to reward a small portion in the way that we see it in the world. And that's an acceptable thing to those of us who are artists. Artists are an archetype. We're not choosing to go this path, most of us, especially when you're on it as long as I am, and you're not seeing those rewards. Truth be told, people who are like me in the arts are in it because it's our path. It's an archetypal thing. If you take basic archetypes, basic human archetypes, you have player, seeker, teacher, guardian, lover, artist, warrior, and healer. If you look at the pool of humanity, we have representation. We have healers, we have artists, we have lovers, and we command many different forms of those archetypes, but we are essentially fundamentally something. And when you find out about yourself that you're an artist, you go anyway, because the rewards aren't there as they are in other fields. And that's because the life of an artist, as compared to other businesses, other pursuits, is an other-interested pursuit. It's not a self-interested pursuit, and there's nothing wrong with self-interested pursuit. If you're not self-interested as a businessman or woman, if you're not self-interested in most of the fields that are offered in the world, you're not going to succeed, you're not going to fulfill those fields. Fulfilling a life in the arts is very much about sacrifice. A lot of people think that at the center of the arts is talent. And I assure you that it's not. It's a big part of understanding that you belong in the arts. When you start imagining that that is your path, you can't get there without requisite talent. But you're not going to be fulfilled on the path of an artist if you don't have at your core a sense of sacrifice, a sense of discipline, an immeasurable sense of beauty, and also this great commitment and this great embrace of imagination. And even further, original creativity, which I think is at the heart. So, what is an artist? By definition, an artist is one who professes and practices an art in which conception and execution are governed by imagination and taste. That's a lot. So when you examine that, when you examine the definition that's been given, as I understand it, it does align. But that's not the way the world sees it, and it's understandable. And my sense about the reason the world doesn't see it this way is because with artistry, with the arts, comes something that I refer to as the afterglow. And the afterglow is a critical part. We understand maybe the meaning, and the meaning is a reflection of past splendor, success, or emotion. And when you hear that, it sounds like a favorable ascription to life. That's what we want. We want to experience something, and then we want to have a favorable memory of it. We want to soak up some of the memories. Unfortunately, in the world, there's a great command that the afterglow has over artistry, and it's a curiosity. What's the explanation for it? I think that it's a challenge to perceive the arts from the perspective of the artist. And so the arts aren't perceived as such, and they're not even perceived as such by people who are pursuing the arts. You have people going into the arts because they have talent, justifiable, sometimes it's sublime talent, and we witness it, and we marvel. And where the drop-off in understanding the difference between an artist's life and the effect of the afterglow in this life is that the afterglow commands the arts. And there are different examples of the afterglow, and I'll give you some to illustrate, just so you have a better understanding of what I'm saying. A clear example of the afterglow is someone saying, "This band from 1971 is the greatest band of all time. No one will ever be able to play guitar like the lead guitarist in that band. There's never going to be another lead singer like that person in the band. It's done, sealed, best, number one, superstars. We move it aside." So that's an example. Another example that's a very popular example that's just come to pass is the Academy Awards. A film comes out in November, and some of us see it, some of us don't. And all of a sudden, we find out that it's been nominated for, let's say, 5 to 10 Academy Awards. And all of a sudden, we have an eye on it. And, I don't want to miss this film because this film everyone's talking about. But we're not asking the question, what's the nature of the film that makes it that everyone's talking about it? We don't necessarily even care at some point because this stuff is so built into the culture. We have the Academy Awards coming every year, so they're coming whether you want them to come or not. And the films will get nominated, and the actors and the writers and the technicians, they'll all get nominated, and we just go along for the ride. And that's a perfect example of the afterglow. Someone gets nominated, and someone wins an Academy Award, and all of a sudden we think this person is a better actor than another actor who's never been nominated. And that is a sense in the culture of applying a business model, the Hollywood, Billboard, Broadway model, to something that's much more vital than that. It's a deeper commitment to life than that, and it's okay that people don't understand it. But the problem is that the artists are suffering in the world because of the afterglow. There's this lambent, overwhelming like a shroud of snow that descends upon new artists in the world, because we've already established in the world at every successive stage who's the best, who we can never outdo. And that's something, and let it be said that even in the Renaissance, which is, for those who don't know the nature of the Renaissance, it was a period in European history that ranged from the 14th century until the 17th century. And it's marked as a time of great expression in the arts. It's marked as a time that was considered a rebirth of the arts. And what's interesting about it is that inside of it is also this great attention to history, great attention to classical works, what they call the antiquity at the time. So you have this progressive movement, but the progressive movement is mindful of things that have come to pass. It's just not blinded by them. And I think that's the difference in today's culture. When people talk about the Renaissance, they talk about its time frame and then its end. And the curiosity is, why would something like that end? Why are we left at the end of the Renaissance? And those of us who are artists, why are we looking back to the Renaissance saying, no, those were the days? The question for each artist is, are we not living the Renaissance unto ourselves? And can we not teach that in the world? Because a Renaissance is in everybody's hands. The afterglow doesn't exist in my room when I'm working. When I finish a piece, if I write a new piece of music and I sit with it, I don't have this afterglow sweeping in and saying, that's the best piece you've ever written. You're never going to write another piece like that. Forget it. Quit now. The afterglow is us. We are the keepers of the Renaissance, and we're the keepers of its end, and we're the keepers of its beginning. There's no question. The power of the audience is not the power to dictate to the artist what to do. It's the power to understand aesthetic. And aesthetic is the last piece of this that I'd like to talk about. Aesthetic is a sense of the beautiful. It seems like a very simple thing, a sense of the beautiful. And do we not have that enough in the culture to anchor ourselves to that notion? Do we not have that? And my thought is that we've killed off a lot of our collective aesthetic because of the afterglow, because we're so sure that something that's come before has precluded any possibility of somebody like me making a statement. And I'll never even be counted. My friends who are in the arts right now will never even be counted because of people who have come before. But art is inspiration. Art isn't meant to kill off the artist and to kill off all of our aesthetic. We have to summon that for ourselves. We have to be people of aesthetic, and that's the great question. Can we become people of aesthetic who can see art a mile off? They know artists just by meeting them, and they understand that it is a culture that's vital and has to be maintained not just for the artist's sake, but for everybody's sake. Thank you.